Hello, I'm once again joined by my friend Chris Espianl, and I'm continuing my reviews on the Friday the 13th series with Jason X. Now, Jason X is the 10th film in the Friday the 13th franchise, hence why it's called Jason X, because X is the Roman numeral for 10. Now, this one was directed by James Isaac, who, prior to this, actually worked on several of David Cronenberg's movies, like The Fly and Naked Lunch, and I can't even pronounce the title of that movie. Existence, I think is how you pronounce that movie's title. But he also did effects work for Return of the Jedi and Gremlins, I believe. But he only directed one other movie prior to this, and that was 1989's The Horror Show. But after this, James Isaac did do two other movies, 2006's Skinwalkers and 2008's Pig Hunt. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He died in 2012. And the movie was written by Todd Farmer, who would go on to write the 2009 remake of My Bloody Valentine, and he also wrote Drive Angry. Now, this film, it was released in Spain in, I think, 2001, but it didn't get a wide release until 2002. Jason X, this used to be, probably my least favorite in the franchise for the longest time, and I'm still not the biggest fan of this one, but I'll be honest, over the years, I've kind of warmed up to this one a little bit, but what is your opinion of Jason X?
The same exact thing. I wasn't a big fan of it when I was younger, but, as I got older, I came to love it. I came to love a lot of them, but I came to appreciate it for its, again, different direction, just like Jason Goes to Hell. Again,
I don't love this one, but I do appreciate it, though, because first of all, the movie knows exactly what it is. The movie doesn't even remotely take itself seriously at all. You know what's so funny about this is the whole concept of Jason in space. Technically, Mad TV predicted that, because a few years prior to this, Mad TV did a skit called Apollo the 13th, Jason Takes NASA, where Jason fucking is in a space shuttle, and I'm not sure if they were basing this movie off that Mad TV sketch or not, but they had to be aware of that, though.
For them to have, to come up with that concept, I mean, what else are you going to do with Jason? You done did almost everything up to this point. You done killed him, made him a supernatural demon, and now sent him in space.
So, the plot of Jason X is it begins a few years in the future, and basically the US government has captured Jason, and they tried to execute him, but failed every time. And basically they come up with this idea of cryogenically freezing him, but then some scientist decides that he's going to take control of Jason and use Jason for research and possibly to weaponize Jason, but then Jason escapes from the soldiers who are trying to, capture him, and basically, long story short, is the woman who is heading this project that was going to freeze Jason. She corners Jason into the cryogenic chamber, closes it up, but then he stabs his machete right through the fucking door, which I didn't know his machete was that strong, but whatever, and it stabs her in the stomach, and long story short, they both get frozen. The movie jumps ahead to, I want to say 400 years in the future, and at this point, the Earth is completely dead. You're not sure if it was, global warming, nuclear war, alien invasion. They never really say what caused this apocalypse, but basically mankind was able to find another Earth-like planet, and for the most part, the human race has moved on to this other planet, but a research team comes back to Earth and finds the bodies of both this woman and Jason Voorhees, and brings them aboard the ship, and long story short, they manage to revive this woman, but then Jason comes back to life, and now Jason is killing all the people aboard this ship, and ultimately the movie culminates in them seemingly killing Jason, but then Jason comes back as a cyborg towards the end of the movie because of these nanobots called the Ants. You'll understand if you actually watch the movie, but that's the basic plot of Jason X. I mean, it's an absurd plot, but again, the movie knows it's an absurd plot. The movie is well aware of how stupid the premise actually is, and it just goes with it.
Yeah. This movie does not take itself serious at all. There's a lot of comedy within it. There's a lot of wacky ideas and lots of things. And a lot of cool things, actually, that they experimented on. Like you said before, the ants and the nanobots that they were able to reconstruct. Both healing the woman, Jason later on in the movie. Even the first person who accidentally got his arm removed when Jason's cryogenic frozen body fall and his machete accidentally fell in between his shoulder and his arm.
Yeah.
So that was our first introduction to that technology, and that's pretty cool. I was kind of impressed by the way it looked. The special effects during that time was 2001, like you said. It kind of looked pretty cool. I liked it.
I mean, it was CGI, but it wasn't bad CGI.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think of the characters in the movie? Because that was always my biggest criticism of this one, is I find the characters to be kind of annoying. But when you watch the movie, though, it's clear that they wanted us to care about some of these characters, the way they set the characters up, but I don't know, I didn't really care too much for the characters. The only character I liked was the head of security on the ship.
Yeah.
I forgot the character's name, but I liked that character a lot.
The big guy, right?
Yeah, other than him, again, the other characters I could kind of take or leave. Like, what do you think of Lexa Doig as the main character?
Well, I'm gonna say this, like, none of those characters are memorable. That's one thing for sure. But, the only thing that is memorable is the wacky hijinks that some of the characters who are not the side characters, you know what I mean? Like, some of the crazy things, like the android, for instance, that was pretty wacky, because it was just so, offbeat, you know what I mean? It was just so left from right. You know, she just came out with this, I don't know, this exotic-looking suit at one point, and she basically
looked like a dominatrix, basically.
Yeah, with these machine guns, and you know what I mean. And she was just doing some calisthenic flips and kicks and shit like that, and you know what I mean. But the characters within themselves, they're all pieces of shit.
Well, I wouldn't say they're pieces of shit, but they're very cliche.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, they're very, cliche. You know what I mean?
The guy who was leading the research team, who I guess ends up being sort of the secondary antagonist of the film, because he's trying to, like, keep Jason alive so he can make some money off of him. He was a pretty fun character and had a pretty hilarious death.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay, guys, he just wanted his machete back.
Forget about all of the people that I sent to apprehend him, that he just done butchered and killed. No, it's okay. He just wanted his machete, guys, come out. You know what I mean? It's so fucking weird. I also, some of the cool things I would like to see is, like, Jason actually fight, like, real aliens, because they did put him up against... Granted, it was like a video game holographic. It was like some type of holographic or
like a virtual simulation. Reality thing. Yeah,
and Jason kind of slashed right through the arm of one of these aliens that they were fighting. The players were fighting against, and that would have been a cool idea, you know.
To have him actually fight aliens? Yeah, that was kind of a missed opportunity with the movie. I do want to point out there's a cameo in this movie from David Cronenberg. Cronenberg plays a character towards the beginning. He plays the scientist who is trying to, like, use Jason for his own purposes.
Yeah.
It was cool to see David fucking Cronenberg in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me wish that he directed a Friday the 13th movie. I mean, can you imagine what a Friday the 13th movie would be like? Granted, Cronenberg stuff is usually more cerebral and more intellectually driven, and I don't know if that would suit a Friday the 13th movie, but I would love to see him try, though.
Yeah, I would love to see him attempt it, you know what I mean? One of the cool things that I liked about it, David Cronenberg does that appearance, and of course it's because of him and
the director's
relationship. So one of the cool things that I did like about the this is that, again, it doesn't take itself serious, so there's multiple ways that they went about it. I kind of like the regenerated version of Jason when I was younger, because I was a kid.
Uber Jason is what they call him, which I think is a stupid name, but that's what they call him.
He had, like, I guess they gave him, like, a hack or an up, because, the bullets that were essentially tearing him to bits and pieces were pretty much nothing to him. He was basically bulletproof.
Yeah.
And
do you remember Joe Tibra?
Yeah.
I remember in high school I let him borrow this movie. The next day he threw the movie onto the table saying, "Why does Jason look like the Terminator?"
Oh, man. I miss that guy.
Yeah, he was a fun guy. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not a good movie, but it is a fun movie. I'll give it that. Like, it's probably my least favorite of the original Friday the 13th series, not counting the reboot. It is probably my least favorite of all the movies, but again, I've warmed up to this movie a little bit over the years. Like, I can't say I absolutely hate this movie. As long as you know what you're getting going into it. Like, know that this is not a movie that's going to take itself seriously. I guess just have fun with it, really.
Yeah, it's Jason in space. That tells you everything you need to know, about it, And
what is with that phenomenon? Because this is not the only slasher movie or horror movie franchise to go to space. Before this, you had Leprechaun in space, and then you had Hellraiser 4, which took place in space. Like, what is that phenomenon that just sets the horror franchises in space? Like, where does that come from?
This is just my opinion, but I think they just... I just believe that they just ran out of ideas. Like, how further we can take it in, We can follow this character's... for 2 or 3 movies until she gets killed off, and maybe the daughter of that character continues, and then... You know what I mean? And then you have... It has these... a lot of them have the same type of... Not all, but a lot of them have that linear. If it's not that character, it's a character that defeated that creature a while ago. They follow him or her. So I guess they were. For me, I think they're just running out of ideas, And really, there was a lot of sci-fi movies during that time, and I believe sci-fi movies were making the big bucks. So I think they wanted to cash in on that as well. Mm-hmm. Could be that,
Yeah.
Having a slasher in space is one way to get a quick money grab.
Yeah. Now, what did you think of Harry Manfredini's score for the movie? Because I actually really liked the end credits song. Like, the music that plays over the end credits was, felt like something right out of an 80s movie, honestly.
Yeah. It felt like right out of an 80s preview of a movie, like an epic that's bound to come out. The score, I kind of like it because it does go... for me, the other scores for the other Jason movies are the product of their time. So they were kind of like... it has that cliche slasher sound. Sometimes it's repetitive. Sometimes it's another score with the same line, but a drawn-out version of it. Sometimes there's a more violent version of it. This one is a more subtle, to the point where it's like, okay, I dig this one. It's not too over the top. The 80s, they just went really over the top, but that's the product.
And you see, I actually feel the opposite. I think this score was kind of over the top compared to, the Harry Manfredini's scores for the earlier Friday the 13th movies.
I feel like the overall crazy wildness behind it. Like, when I first seen the movie when I was young, I was wondering to myself, where else are they going to take it? Mm-hmm. And then I was told by several people that, no, this is going to be the last Jason movie. I don't think they're going to really push anything. And then I was wrong. A lot of people were wrong now, because we have at least two more movies after this.
Yeah, so. Yeah. So right after this one, you had Freddy vs. Jason, which continuity-wise is set between the events of Jason Goes to Hell and this one. And then you had the 2009 reboot. So they never followed up this particular movie. However, there was a series of comic books, as well as a series of novels that picked up where this movie left off. I think in one of the comics, Uber Jason fights regular Jason. I don't know how they explain that. I don't know if it's because of Jason's regenerative thing, that another Jason grows, or if it's a time travel thing. But you also, I think in one of the Jason X novels, Jason has a son, apparently. Like, I think they go kind of crazy with some of the novels. But yeah, if you do want to see this story continued, there were some comic books and there were some novels that picked up where this movie left off. But again, that depends on, do you want to count those as canon?
Yeah. A lot of people don't even count this one as canon, to tell you the truth. But, fuck it. It was enjoyable. It was one of my least favorite ones. And come to find out that two of the least favorite ones I ended up enjoying right now. So,
yeah,
I kind of melted into it. Kind of warmed up to it as well.
I just want to cut to a clip of my late friend Chris Mano giving his thoughts on Jason X. This was taken from a retrospective that we did on the Friday the 13th movies back in 2018.
This one's just plain fun, like plain cheesy fun, with especially Uber Jason. I mean, when I was a little kid, I was like, wow, he's going to have sci-fi upgrades. That's going to be fun to watch. If you kind of just go into it expecting like good cheesy fun, you get that. Don't take it too seriously. Definitely don't. Well, I mean, you would compare it to the others inevitably. I don't know how it would hold up for you. For me, I mean, it's a sci-fi movie compared to what was initially just like a little kid drowning in a summer camp. So it comes a long way from the original, but I enjoy it personally. It's a lot of fun, and that face smash kill never gets old.
Here are Jeremy's thoughts on Jason X.
Jason X is a really stupid movie, but it's a stupid movie that I have fun watching. In this entry in the series, Jason gets frozen and wakes up in the future, where he is then taken aboard a ship in outer space. That's right. Jason goes to space. From there, Jason once again goes on a murderous rampage. This movie has some great kills, especially when Jason forces a woman's face into a vat of liquid nitrogen and then smashes her face against the table. I also like the cameo appearance from David Cronenberg, who plays a character who gets what he deserves. His character is willing to put people's lives at risk just to study Jason's regenerative ability. And this is similar to the character of Professor Lowe, who wants to make money off of Jason. Lexa Doig is very sympathetic as Roanne, who is the scientist who freezes Jason and is herself frozen in the process. She's definitely the voice of reason in a movie full of dumb characters, like the aforementioned Professor Lowe, who actually thinks that they can get Jason Voorhees under control so that they can profit off of him. I always laugh when he's confronted by Jason and he tries to reason with him by saying that they can both make a fortune, and then yells out, "It's okay, he just wanted his machete." There's also characters who seem to always have their backs turned at the worst possible moment. Then there's Kinsa, who suffers a panic attack and can't even open a door. Another thing of note is that Jason gets an upgrade in this movie and becomes Uber Jason. I just love the look of Uber Jason. He's so metallic, and I also love when they show close-ups of his face and you see his red eyes. Some of the special effects in this movie are pretty bad. Like, there's this part in which two characters are playing some sort of virtual reality game and the aliens they're fighting look embarrassingly fake. Also, when the ship crashes into Solaris, that looks fake too. I do like the part in which the surviving members of the crew trick Jason into believing that he's back in Camp Crystal Lake, and he does away with two virtual teenagers in a kill that's a homage to a kill in Part 7. Anyway, I'll wrap up here. If you don't mind turning your brain off for a little while, I'd say give this one a shot.
Here is my friend John Riccadelli's thoughts on Friday the 13th Part 10, Jason X.
Jason X, the 10th Friday the 13th movie. Jason went to Manhattan, hell, and now he's in space. Surprise no Jason in Africa, Hawaii, California, Australia, or Italy, Or hey, why not make Jason / Thanksgiving or Jason Voorhees Christmas special? At this point, they really had nothing left to do. Producer Sean S. Cunningham admitted the reason why he made this movie was for money, and he's very frustrated having a hard time getting Freddy vs. Jason made. This was basically a distraction for him. Despite my bad review of Jason Goes to Hell, I like this one. It's okay. Yes, it's not great, but it's a fun bad movie. It's not supposed to be taken seriously. My advice is to watch this with your friends and do a Mystery Theater 3000 night making fun how bad and entertainingly bad this movie is. Also, we got to see more of Kane Hodder in this movie as Jason compared to the last movie. When Kane Hodder was offered to come back as Jason, he said he laughed how funny this idea was. And sadly, this is the last time he's played Jason in a Friday movie. He did play Jason in a recent video game. I'm not sure if he count that as canon or not. His look as Space Jason is pretty cool. They call him Uber Jason. Also, Jason looks like the Terminator when he turns into Uber Jason. Despite not looking like Uber Jason throughout the entire movie, it's worth the wait to see Jason turn into Uber Jason the last half of the movie. When Jason and the girl are found by scientists 400 years later into the future, it reminds you a little bit of The Thing or like Captain America comic books. The Sub-Zero kill is one of the best kills of the series and very original. I remember Mythbusters doing an episode on this death scene, but I don't remember what the results were in that episode. That was the only time I ever watched Mythbusters. This is another sci-fi movie that predicted virtual reality video games. It's funny how Jason kills the gamers twice, in the virtual game and in real life. At this point in time, the series continuity is all out the window. Characters from previous movies like Final Survivors, Chris, Jeannie, Tommy Jarvis, Tina, and Rennie are all dead at this point, 400 years later into the future. Also, some fans can debate about this movie being canon or not because it takes place after Freddy vs. Jason. David Cronenberg has a small cameo in this movie, which is very interesting. This was probably the first time I knew about who David Cronenberg was as a teenager before I knew about him as a famous horror movie director, and he gets killed by Jason. I grew up watching Goosebumps, the TV show. I didn't realize that two actors who were on Goosebumps are in this movie. Dove Tiefenbach, who was on the episodes Bad Hair Day and the two-part episode The Ghost Next Door. I also remember he was in Harriet the Spy. Melody Johnson was on an episode Be Careful What You Wish For. The setting designs feel a little bit like Resident Evil, and Resident Evil came out 1 year later after this movie. A lot of fans complain about this movie's crappy 2000s CGI special effects, and around that time period, that was common for fans to nitpick at bad CGI, and how it does not hold up today, which I can agree. That part of the virtual reality game, that monster CGI, is god-awful and crap. It does not hold up very well. This movie reminded me of Alien and Aliens. Just like Aliens was an action horror movie, so was this movie. In space, no one can hear you get slaughtered by Jason Voorhees. The female robot had to have been a homage in reference to Ash and Bishop from the Alien movies. Ironically, one of the main characters is named Dallas. When Jason's in the virtual reality to distract him, they pay tribute to Part 7, The New Blood, when Jason kills the two hot chicks in the sleeping bag. This time he hits the bag more than once. In Part 7, the MPA cut it to just one take. I guess they figured with the MPA not getting in the way, that's why they did this kill again from Part 7. It's funny when they reference Star Trek and You Beam Us Up. They also reference the gun BFG from Dune, which I've never seen, but I have little familiarity with that because of being a fan of David Lynch's movies. I read they did a comic book for this movie. They originally wanted to do a sequel, but the movie's failure prevented them from making another Jason X movie. I like to read that comic book for curiosity. Not a great movie, still fun and entertaining. Don't take this movie seriously or try too hard. Just watch and have a blast with it. It was an interesting experience and see how they at least tried to do something different than what fans are used to. I mean, yes, same format cliches, but done in space. We've had Jason in space, Leprechaun in space, Pinhead in space. Who's next? Freddy in space, Chucky in space, or Michael Myers in space? You never know.
And here are Joey's thoughts on Jason X.
Jason X, in my opinion, is okay. In my opinion, it's okay. But I do think when they made this movie, they were starting to run out of ideas like they did, because it's the same thing like with Critters. I think it was Critters 4, and then Leprechaun 4 too. They went up in space, and then Hellraiser Bloodline. But I do have to say again, like I did before, I still like this movie. It's not one of my best because it's like I like the classics better. This is one I still watch it at times, but it's not one of my best. But I still watch it. But I do like it for one reason too, because it's something different in the series. I do have to say that. So it is still good that it's in space because it's something different in the series. It's like it's not just a campsite again. That's what I like about it too. It's cool that way. And this was like the last Friday the 13th movie. Then they went on and they made Freddy vs. Jason, and then they made the remake, of course. But yeah, this is supposed to be the last one. I believe, because he blew up in space. I mean, the last one for the classic franchise. I just, I still would, recommend us to check it out. I still have to say I like this movie. I know it's not one of my favorites, or I guess it's a lot of people with me where it's not one of their favorite, but it's still something different in the series. I still have to say that. But yeah, like I say, check it out. It's still a cool movie.
Okay, so that was our review of Jason X, and our next movie review will be on Freddy vs. Jason.